All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Warren Center's second annual Strong Start Virtual Summit, powered by Reliant. This session is brought to you by Sandy Kaufman. I'm Lawson Gutzler, and I'm the Digital Media Coordinator here at the Warren Center. I'm so thankful you all were able to join us today. If you don't know anything about the Warren Center, we're a nonprofit organization that advocates, serves, and empowers children and families with developmental disabilities and delays. We do that by offering personalized therapy services for children, one-on-one coaching for parents, and providing access to resources and support for families in our community. Everyone at the Warren Center is so glad that you all were able to join us today and attend this session. This session is called It's More Than Words, Helping Your Child Communicate Through Every Stage of Development. We have two presenters for this session. The first presenter is Emma Rivera. She's a bilingual speech language pathologist who graduated from Temple University in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. She's worked with children with the autism spectrum disorder, expressive and receptive language disorders, articulation disorders, and fluency disorders. And then our second presenter from the Warren Center is Mia Fontenot. She's a speech and language pathologist who graduated from Texas A&M University, Kingsville. She worked in the early childhood intervention setting for 2.5 years before coming here to work at the Warren Center. If you guys have any questions at any time throughout this presentation, feel free to comment them below in the Q&A, and Emma and Mia can answer those at the end of the session. With that, Emma and Mia, you can take it away from here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Emma.
Hi, I'm Mia.
And we will share our screen with you so you can see our PowerPoint. Let's see. Okay. All right, so like Lawson said, our presentation is called It's More Than Words, Helping Your Child Communicate Through Every Stage of Development. So let's review what we'll be discussing today. We are going to be talking about the different definitions for all of the areas of development and language. We'll talk about some different developmental milestones from birth to 8 years old, and we'll talk about some strategies that you guys can use to help encourage your child's language growth. We'll also discuss some activity ideas that you guys can take home right after this and start working with your child on these strategies. So let's talk about the 3 areas of language. When we think about language, the first section is receptive language. So this is language, the words that you can understand. So this encompasses things like following directions, identifying common objects. So if you say, "Where's the ball?" your child will go and grab the ball. If you say, "Touch your nose," your child will follow those directions to touch their nose. This receptive language is different from the next thing we'll talk about, expressive language. So the words that we can understand develop differently and at different rates than the words that we can say. This means that even though your child may be able to sing the song heads, shoulders, knees, and toes, it doesn't mean that they can necessarily follow the direction, touch your nose. So like we said, the next part is called expressive language. So those are the words that you can say to communicate with other people. Here we're talking about things like naming objects, requesting actions or assistance, and describing and commenting, talking about your day. Those are the verbal aspects, but that also encompasses nonverbal things like pointing or gesturing. The third part is called pragmatic language. This is the language, how we use our words to interact socially with other people. This encompasses things like responding to an interaction. So if you come up to your child and say, "Hey, kid," they will turn to you and respond to you. This also includes things like starting an interaction. Your child will go up to you and start to request for something or start to speak to you. This also includes what we call joint attention. That's the idea of sharing an experience together. So for example, if you have a really cool toy that you're playing with your child, they will look to the toy, then look at you, and then back to the toy to kind of say like, hey, like this is really cool. We're sharing this together. Pragmatic language also encompasses things like turn taking. So taking turns building a block tower, but that will help lead to taking turns in a conversation. So now I'll throw it to Mia to start talking about our communication milestones.
Thank you. Okay, so first we're going to talk about the milestones for birth to 6 months. With that being said, if we start off with the pragmatic language, during these first 6 months, you want the child to stop crying whenever you talk to them or they hear your sound. We want the child to have a social smile. We want them to be able to start smiling at you when they see you. We want that eye contact for them to start forming with you, with other people. During this time, we also want them to start turning their head towards a sound. So if you start talking or they heard the TV turn on or a toy, for them to be able to turn their head, and they're going to be able to, so that you know they hear the sound. We want them to also start getting startled by loud sounds and be able to recognize voices. For example, we want them to be able to recognize maybe mom's voice, dad's voice, grandma's voice, brother's voice, different voices. During this time for our expressive language, we also want the child to be able, in their first 3 months, to start making those happy sounds, those cooing sounds, those gurgly sounds, those cute, fun sounds that they make at this age. Around the 4 to 6 month age, we want to see them start making those babbling sounds of bu, 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 ma, pa, ta, da kind of sounds. All right, so strategy for social games. The goal is to have fun with your child. So kids learn best when they are having fun. We want you to teach them their language and build social skills through different games. An activity that you could do is face-to-face play. Just playing with them, whether it's peekaboo, tickling them, lifting them up, singing songs. These are all good face-to-face games that you can do with each other. From the 6 months to 1 year, we want their pragmatic language. We want them to be able to respond to their own name. So if you call them from a distance, Maggie, we want them to turn their head and look at you for a response. Whenever, during this time, we also want them to engage in more face-to-face play. So that slide before, when we're talking about the tickling games, as well as peekaboo, singing songs with each other. These are all things that we want to see them doing more. We also want them to start using toys more appropriately as they're intended to, not just banging the toys or putting them in their mouth, being able to start pushing buttons and getting more interested in toys. We want them to be able to recognize words for common objects. So we want them to be able to recognize things that they see on a daily basis in their home environment or wherever they are. For example, maybe recognizing the word bottle. If you say bottle, they're looking around trying to see where the bottle is, or their cup. Maybe they're also a bear, stuffed bear, or some family member's name, maybe brother's name. They're looking around trying to see where it is or where the person is. We also want them to be able to respond to no. So if the child's doing something they're not supposed to, and you say, no, no, they'll be able to stop doing what they're doing. Also, with expressive language, we want to start hearing a variety of babbling sounds, maybe ba 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 da da ba ba. We also want the child to engage in turn taking. So this is a very important pre-linguistic skill that we want kids to have. We want them to be able to engage back and forth with each other. So how if Emma and I were talking, we would conversate, we go, I say something and Emma says something, and back and forth. So it's just the same thing as if you were doing with your infant. For example, if your infant starts babbling something, and then you start saying something in response. So they start babbling again, and then you say something back in response. You want to have that turn taking going back and forth for as long as you can. We also want them to start using gestures to communicate with you. So waving hi, bye, shaking their head when they mean no, or maybe they're reaching up for you with their hands to indicate that they want to be picked up. We also, around the first year, we want to start seeing that first word, and anywhere from 1 to 3 words. Strategy, repetition is key when teaching new words. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Kids need to hear a word at least 500 times before they're going to feel comfortable saying that word. So that's why we repeat words so much. For example, we will say things like, for example, that we have on the screen right now. Where's Dada? I see Dada. Hi, Dada. Repeating that word multiple times in a variety of ways. So that way, when I said it just now, I said the word Dada 3 times instead of saying it once. Where's Dada? Well, an activity that you can do is playing with a ball. So again, if, for example, we can do the same thing that we were just talking about with a ball. Here's a ball. Let's push ball. Uh-oh, where is ball? I see ball. Go get ball. Bounce ball. So in that case, you can say, you heard me say the word ball multiple times just now. So that was me repeating the word ball multiple times for your child to hear it, so that eventually when they feel comfortable, they'll feel comfortable saying the word ball. From 12 months to about 18 months, we want to hear your child start imitating adult words, but also we want to hear that intonation in their voice. When we talk, we don't talk in a monotone voice. We use intonation. Our voice goes up and our voice goes down. So we want to hear them not only repeating that word, but we also want to hear that intonation with it as well. During this time, we want the child to also start figuring out how toys work through trial and error. They're going to try and try and try. During this time, we also want, we will probably see your child you'll see the child bringing you a toy, asking for help for it, probably turn it on, things like that, or maybe opening the packaging for the toy. We also want to see receptively them following a simple one-step direction. For example, if you told the child, go get the ball, for them to be able to get the ball and bring you the ball. Or at this time also, your child's all around all the time, picking up things off the floor. A lot of the time it's trash. And if you tell the child, give it to me, you want them to be able to give you whatever's in their hand. We also want them to be able to identify 1 to 3 common body parts, maybe your nose, your eyes, your ears, just those common body parts. During this time, we also want to see the expressive vocabulary. So the words again that they're saying, we want to see an increase in that. Anywhere from 3 words to 20 plus words is what we would like to see around this time. But also not only using words, but we're also using gestures with these words too. So not only just saying dog, maybe dog, and pointing to it as well, adding that gesture to it. Oftentimes, we're also the child is not going to be 100% intelligible at this point. Oftentimes, we're going to hear the child omit some sounds in that word. So, for example, dog. Maybe at this age, they're not saying dog, the whole word. Maybe it's just dog for dog, which is okay for this age. Okay, strategy. Another strategy is sabotage. Kind of one of my favorite ones to do sometimes. The goal is to motivate your child to talk. So we want to create those situations where your child has to use their words to communicate for a toy, or maybe they need help with something. Sometimes we want to keep toys out of reach, putting them away, putting them in a box or a container that's closed so they can't open it, putting it in a bag with a zipper if they can't figure out a zipper yet. So they're going to bring it to you and ask for help. An idea you can do with this also is during snack time. For example, if your child is eating crackers, maybe just giving them 1 or 2 crackers in the beginning. Then they're going to look to you and they're going to want more crackers. So then you can encourage the child to say, more? Do you want more crackers? More? Or you can encourage them to say label the word cracker. And then you can keep doing that and just keep giving them 1 or 2 crackers at a time until their snack is over. In the 18 months to 2 years, we want to see them pragmatically engaging in functional play. So we want them to see them using toys as they're intended to play with, using toys appropriately. So with the car, not just looking at a car, actually pushing the car, again, playing with it how it's supposed to be played with. Relational play, we want to see them using 2 different toys together. Maybe a child is going to start building blocks up to make a tall tower, and then they're going to use the car to crash into the tower. We also want to see pretend play emerging. So pretending to eat and sleep. Maybe your child starts pretending to give their cookie to their teddy bear, or the teddy bear goes to sleep. Or even with you, you can do this with your child too. So you might pretend, say, oh, I'm sleepy, and pretend to go to sleep. Receptively, we want them to start identifying more body parts at this time, and understand basic categories. For example, maybe food is a category, or maybe some household items. And then we have on here pointing to a picture when named. So for example, if you and your child are reading a book together and you say, Tommy, where's the truck? He's able to point to the truck. Or maybe, where's the dog? He's able to point to the dog in the book. At this time also, we want to see again an increase in expressive vocabularies for them to say more words. We have on here 50 to 100 words. Again, this is just an average, so don't feel bad if your child isn't doing this right now. Every child is different. During this time, we will also want, around the 2-year mark, we want to see them putting 2 words together. So maybe mommy come for a noun and an action phrase, and to be able to answer what questions again. What does a dog say? Woof, woof. What does a horse say? Neigh, neigh, neigh. Things like that. Another strategy is to be the most fun thing in the room. Keep your child's attention while you're playing. So kids learn best when they're having fun. So turn off your TV, put away those distracting toys, and just be this fun and silly person so that all the attention is on you. Again, so using those silly voices, singing songs with them, as well as doing finger play. So if it's wheels on the bus, we're doing the hand motions to it as well. Playing tickling games, movement games to keep the child's attention again on you. Okay, so again, a tickling game for an activity idea. Tickling the child, and then once you start getting that rhythm of tickling and they wait for you, oh, I see your tummy, tickle, tickle, tickle. And then incorporating another word into that. See, I see your feet. And you start tickling their feet. And then working around and doing different body parts with that as well. From the 2 to 3 year mark, we want to see them watching other children play. Maybe you'll see if you bring a child to the park or the library, you might see them looking at other kids, seeing what they're doing, and maybe they might join in and play with them. We want to see them also helping cleaning up their toys. Sometimes they're going to have difficulty with that. That's okay. Sometimes also during this age, we're going to have them having difficulty sharing. And that's okay. So we just want to teach them like, hey, it's okay. We can share our toys. And during this time, we're going to see more back and forth conversations, which as adults, that's what we do. We have this back and forth conversation again, where one person's talking and then the other person's talking. But when your child has more words, you'll be able to see these back and forth conversations starting to form. Receptively, we want them to be able to identify more body parts now. So again, if you say, where's your eyes? They can point to their eyes and do a lot of the body as well. We want them to be able to follow 2-step directions. So not just get your shoes, maybe get your bear and get your cup, 2 different things. We want them to start understanding quantitative concepts like one or all. Give me one piece of food. Okay, give me all of the food. Things like that. And receptively, we want them to be able to understand now 500 to 900 words. And again, it's okay if your child isn't understanding 500 words. That's okay. Expressive language, we want them to request common objects by name. So just labeling items if they want something, if they want their cup, or if they want water, cup, water, and at this age 2, they're going to be making common grammatical errors. They're not going to be talking like we're talking. They're not going to be using present tense, future tense, anything like that. So you're going to see grammatical errors at this age, and that's okay for them. We also want to see their expressive vocabulary increase and start speaking in 2 to 4 word phrases. By this point, again, they're not going to be 100% intelligible. We want to see anywhere from 50 to, by 3, we would like to have 75% intelligibility. So for a strategy, you can have a verbal routine. So setting up a predictable routine that you can say over and over again with a magic word that you want your child to eventually say. So for example, if you're playing with a car, ready, set, go, and doing that over and over and over to work on that word go. Or for example, 1, 2, 3, and then they jump to you. And then I think this is the same thing. I believe also, just again with the car, ready, 1, 2, 3, go. Or having that wait time, 1, 2, 3, and waiting for a response, and then saying go. Just give your child that opportunity to see if they're going to say go.
All right, so let's talk about our kids from the 3 to 4 range. At this stage, we do start turn taking to happen a little bit more, and we like to see our children play more cooperatively with other kids. Pretend play is really starting to develop here, and maybe more complex scenes like playing with a toy kitchen, cutting up the toy food and mixing it in a bowl. And children also start to begin to talk about events that happened to them and express their feelings. In terms of that language that they understand, this is when we start to see children being able to follow more 2- and 3-step directions. So take your shoes, go put them away, and then come get lunch. Those 2 or 3 steps all together. Kids will also start to understand more location words like in front or behind, and understanding more opposite concepts, hot and cold, up and down. In terms of that language that they can say, now children start to speak in 3- and 4-word phrases, a little bit longer. And we start to see a little bit more complexity in their structure. Things like those ing words, running, jumping, little helping verbs like is, am, and are. And at this stage, we like to see a more intelligible speech, fewer articulation errors. Still not perfect, but a little bit better. So at this stage, a great strategy to use is add one word. So the goal of this is, if your child is already saying just one word, you can encourage them to start putting words together in longer phrases. So it's truly just repeating what the one word that your child says and then adding on an extra word. So if your child says ball, you can say, yeah, red ball, and show them. They don't have to say it. You just repeat that model of 2 words together over and over again and let them hear that great, more complex language. So a great activity idea for this is bubbles. Super fun, just keep control of them, and they're a great opportunity for language. So if your child is already saying bubbles, but just the one word, it's a great way to help them start building those phrases. So if you have the bubbles, you have the control, and they request bubbles, you say more bubbles. Okay, more bubbles, and then blow. And again, repeating it over and over again, these short, simple phrases. So with our 4- to 5-year-old kids, this is when we really start to see more of that back and forth conversation like we've talked about. They're inviting other children to come play with them and using those context clues to make simple inferences about different scenes and scenarios. With the language that they understand, children are able to typically listen to short stories and remember details about them. So being able to answer those questions. Kids are using time-based words, talking about yesterday and today and tomorrow. And they're also using those sequential words like first and last. This is when also children are able to answer most of those WH questions. So what, who, when, where, how, and why. They're getting a little bit better with those. And we also like to see children speaking in 4- to 8-word phrases. Their vocabularies are getting nice and long, being able to speak in longer phrases with more of those grammatical markers. So past tense and future tense. And this is where we like to see kids being able to speak with fewer and fewer articulation errors. At this stage, we can understand most of what they say typically. So a great strategy to help out your child is choice of 2. So this is a great way to, if you're working with your child on language skills, a good way to give them a little bit of help if they need it without totally giving away the answer. So for example, you can say, oh, this or that. So if you're working on things like WH questions, like we talked about, or learning new words, or even managing behaviors, giving them a choice of 2 can really help them understand the options that we're laying out. So for example, if your child is reaching for a snack, but they're not using their words to communicate, you can give them a little hint. Do you want apples or cookies? So a great way to practice this is a nice little book activity. So let's say you're reading a book and there's a picture of a dog behind a tree, and you want to practice some where questions. So you might say, oh, where is the dog? But your child is having a little trouble answering. So you can give them that choice of two. Oh, where is the dog? Is he on top of the tree or behind the tree? Just that little bit of help can really support them and encourage independence while still giving them the help that they need. Now for a big chunk, 5 to 8 years old, this is where we like to see kids making their own friends, announcing a change in topic instead of just running away with a different conversation, and engaging in more complex social cooperative play. We like to see kids following multi-step and complex directions with lots of different descriptive concepts and understanding things like left and right. We also like to see kids use more complex and compound sentences. They're typically using their imagination to tell a story and using most grammar structures appropriately at this age. A great way to support language at this age, but truly all throughout, is using visuals. So this really helps your child to understand words and directions, especially when we start to work on long multi-step directions. So again, using pictures or even just gestures to support your verbal words with some visuals. So for example, if you're trying out a nice long multi-step direction, you can say, go to the kitchen and get a big bowl. And using these kind of exaggerated gestures can help support that understanding. So a great activity that all my kids love is playing hide and seek to practice multi-step directions. Everyone loves hide and seek. It's fun. You get to practice more complex concepts. So if you have a bunch of different stuffed animals or any toys that they love, you can give a set of directions. So, okay, we're going to do 2 things using those visuals, 2 things. Ready? First, get the bear and hide it under the bed. That's a great way to support their comprehension and their ability to follow these multi-step directions. So let's talk about some things to remember. I'll throw it back to Mia again.
Okay, functional first. So during this time, we want to also be sure that the child is using functional words to communicate, telling us that they want more, or they're all done with something, that they need help, that they want to eat, that they want to drink, that they want to be picked up, or that when they want to be put down, go, stop. These are all very functional words that we want our child to communicate with us, to let us know exactly what they want, what they need. Not so functional would be ABCs, 1, 2, 3 colors for them to be able to know what their shapes are. And then it's always important to follow your child's lead. If your child is not doing some of these skills that they should be for their age, that's okay. So you want to meet your child where they are right then and there. So go ahead and try some of these strategies and games, regardless of whatever age they are, whatever level they are, language-wise right now. You are your child's best teacher.
Another thing to think about is that you can really practice any of these things anywhere you are with anything. You do not need to go out and buy fancy toys. And in fact, the toys without batteries are the best toys. You can use things like self-talk. So that's when you are just narrating what you are doing. When you're cooking with your child, getting them dressed, doing bath time, you can just say, oh, look, I've got a cup. The cup's going in the water. Oh, water down. Any way to just expose your child to short, simple phrases with that rich language. Parallel talk is just like that, but narrating not what you're doing, but what your child is doing. So if your child is playing with blocks, you can say like, oh, you've got a block, up, up, up. Oh no, it fell down. Really simple. You don't need anything but your own voice to expose them to language. So that is bringing us to the end of our presentation. We have time for some questions, but you can also reach out to your child's speech therapist, their pediatrician. And if you're not yet enrolled in our services with us, we've got our number on our website right here. All right.
All right, thanks, guys. Anyone who has questions from this session that you would like Emma and Mia to answer, go ahead and write that at the bottom. There's a Q&A little button down at the bottom. That's where you can write it. And we already have one from a participant. They say, our handouts from this session available as a reference. Now, I will be putting this whole session up on YouTube later next week. So if you ever want to go back and reference it, that will be there by Wednesday. But for you all, do you know off the top of your head if there's any resources that you can direct everyone to?
Yeah, actually, the Warren Center's website itself we have a whole section of resources on the things that we've talked about, but also a whole range of different topics and issues. I would direct everyone to the Warren Center website.
Great. Looks like we don't have any other questions. So I just want to thank everyone for attending this session and for Emma and Mia sharing their insights. It was very helpful. Our last session is at noon Central Time today, and it's with our keynote speaker, Mark Haney. He's going to tell a very riveting story of his life growing up with disabilities. You won't want to miss it. If you want to join that session and you aren't already, go ahead and log into your Schedule account that you made this with, or go to thewarrencenter.org/strongstart to sign up for that last keynote session. Again, that's at noon Central Time. So that's coming up here in about 20 minutes. So we hope you guys can join us then. It'll be great. And thank you again, Emma and Mia, for sharing your insights today.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.